Thanks again for joining us for another awesome episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and bioenergetic practitioner. And today's episode is brought to you today by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to optimize wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better-based life in your hands and on your wrist. And make sure to stick to the very end because we always have an incredible giveaway that you're not going to want to miss. But you're not going to want to miss one word out of my next guest's mouth because she's absolutely incredible. I've had a blast with her so far, getting to know her before we hit record. I've been following you for years and just in awe of all the things that you're doing in the world, and especially around women's health. You know, a topic that needs to be talked about still so much more than it is. You're a TEDx speaker, like you're an author, you've just done so many incredible things, and you just seem like a really genuine, amazing person. So welcome, Cynthia Thurlow, to the show.
Thanks, Heather. I've been looking forward to connecting with you.
Yay. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what made you want to become a doctor? How did you get talking about women's health, intermittent fasting, and just, kind of the things that make you tick and why you're in this world? Because I found that a lot of folks that kind of talking about alternative things kind of have a pain to purpose type of story. Do you have one of those?
Oh, sure. Well, I would say that I'm kind of one of these individuals that has always wanted to serve others in some capacity. So when I went to my traditional undergraduate program, I was pre-law all the way. And as I got into my senior year, I realized I probably didn't want to become an attorney. And so I did this major pivot, went and worked. And I always tell people, like, there are no coincidences. Worked for a Fortune 500 company, absolutely hated my job. I got a dog, and the dog changed everything for me. I started thinking more
The
about
dog, the
a dog.
DOG. Okay.
Yes, I got a dog, and it changed my perspective. It literally made me realize that I probably wanted to be involved in the medical field. And everyone in my family was either a teacher, a doctor, or a nurse. And that was the trajectory of both sides of my family. And no one was more surprised than my parents when I indicated to them I was going to go back to school, take pre-med classes, got into a dual degree program, ultimately ended up becoming a nurse practitioner. But prior to that, became an ER nurse in inner city Baltimore. And so I tell everyone I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Ended up in cardiology as an NP for 16 years. And after becoming a parent, I have my oldest son has life-threatening food allergies, and the impact that that made on our lives, my perspective on food was life-changing because I did everything right. I followed the guidance of our excellent pediatrician. I breastfed my son. I abstained from eating crap and junk when I was pregnant and when I was breastfeeding and afterwards. And my son still ended up developing life-threatening food allergies. And, 18 plus years ago, there was not the information that there is now. There was not the awareness about food allergies. I was scared to take him to a restaurant. I was terrified to take him to a friend's house because so many people did not take his peanut and tree nut allergies seriously. And I felt disempowered. I felt frightened. And I had taken care of thousands of patients that had either died from anaphylaxis, which is the most severe form of exposure to a food allergen, many of whom were young, 20s and 30s, dying of anaphylaxis, which was scary. And all the allergists left me with, the traditionally trained allopathic allergist, was carry an EpiPen and pray with a 2-year-old.
Oh.
And it made such an impact on me that I started thinking, what is happening with our food supply that is impacting why we are seeing escalating rates of children with allergies, asthma, food sensitivities, autism, et cetera, et cetera. And so I ultimately read a book called The Unhealthy Truth by Robin O'Brien. I'm not sure if you ever read it. It changed my life. It changed the trajectory of everything I did. And so this was in the 2010 timeframe. And I started thinking about, like, do I want to do a PhD program? And so I started a PhD program thinking maybe that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to leave clinical medicine. I took one class and I was like, nope, it was just ivory tower medicine. I wasn't
Wow.
interested in that. And so then I ultimately ended up doing initially a functional nutrition program. And I realized food is really where it's at. That was what I was most interested in talking to my patients about. My traditional allopathic trained peers, although supportive, kind of made fun of me because they're like, oh, she's the NP that wants to talk about food. lifestyle really isn't that important. And that was the thinking that people had 10 years ago. So in 2016, I left traditional allopathic medicine to start my own practice. And almost immediately, I started attracting women that were at the same stage of life I was in. So perimenopause and women in menopause who felt like their needs were not being met by conventional allopathic medicine. And let me back up and just say there is a place for allopathic medicine. In no way am I saying that it's not needed, but we do a terrible job with prevention and chronic disease management. And so what I've been able to do over the last 8 years is create programs. And I did a lot of one-on-one work initially, went on to do a couple TED Talks, one of which that went viral, talking about a very important strategy, intermittent fasting, wrote a book, have a podcast. And so really took this big pivot going from ER medicine to cardiology to now really working in women's health over the last 8 years and really helping to empower women, to let them know that they have options, to let them know there are alternatives. They don't have to just buy into the weight gain as a normal function of aging kind of mantra and rhetoric that I heard myself as a middle-aged woman. And so many of my patients and clients have as well. So I'm all about education, inspiration, and empowerment, and doing it in a way so that women feel like they have choices and that their lives matter even when they are no longer able to have children, or they're no longer choosing to be able to have children, whatever stage that they're in. And to me, it's incredibly gratifying. I jokingly tell my kids and my husband, there's no doubt that I was put on this earth to be their mother and to be married to my husband. What I find most interesting is this is my life's work. Like the work that I'm doing now is that impactful and that important.
Oh, absolutely. And you said, 10 years ago, they were saying that nutrition and lifestyle doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
They're still saying it. I'm still getting clients that the doctors are telling them that what they eat doesn't matter when it comes to their diabetes or their other autoimmune disease. And it's still shocking and frustrating. And the same thing with women, right? They go in, I've got brain fog. Oh, you've just got mommy brain. It's just a hormones thing. And, it's frustrating. There's all kinds of statistics out there, how much longer it takes a woman to get diagnosed with autoimmune, with a woman to get diagnosed with Lyme disease over their male counterpart, just because they still just dismiss this as, hysteria and hormones. And, I was gaslit for 27 years from the medical community. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And so I love this empowerment. I love talking about women's health because, again, like I said, I feel like it's a topic that's still so greatly underserved, and I'm loving this shift that has been happening. And I'm getting goosebumps. This is a good place. We're going to pause real quick for a commercial. When we come back, I want to dive deeper into the topic today, which is all around gut health. Nikki has a frequency around gut health. I love this conversation because it's just tied to everything else health, right? And so she got a new book coming out. I want to dive into that. So everybody stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Nicole. I want to tell you about this really cool device that I've got. It's called Nikki. I got it from Freemedica at their website, wearenikki.com. And it is what they call bioenergetic wearable frequency delivery device. And it has a bunch of different frequency sets on it, like nighttime, pain, sleep, stress and anxiety, travel, viruses and bacteria, and other things like that. I really, really love this device. In fact, I have 2 of them because when one is charging, I want to wear the other because I'm never without it. My top 3 frequencies, so I wear nighttime every night. I really need good sleep. I don't get good sleep unless I'm wearing nighttime. So that's a big one for me, and it helps me just kind of get to sleep. I put it on maybe about a half an hour or so before I'm going to go to bed, and then I have a really good 8 hours of sleep, 7-8 hours. My other one, I have arthritis in my neck, so I use the pain frequency every day. I am not without that frequency. I need it. It just really helps me to be fluid and to not have a lot of headaches or different things that go on with having arthritis in my neck. And my other frequency, I use stress and anxiety on the regular because I do morning prayer and meditation every morning. And the stress and anxiety just helps kind of calm everything down so that I can be present to do what I need to do in my meditation. I will say other frequencies that I use on the regular, when I'm leaving the house, I use travel because I'm leaving my environment and I don't know what's out there. And I just want to make sure that I am, somewhat protected or have the best chance against whatever might be out there for me. And if I feel a little tickle of something coming on, I do use viruses and bacteria too. Like I said, I have 2 of them. I kind of made it my own because I put a band on it that I really love. and I can't get enough of it.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. We are Nikki.com.
Hey, welcome back. Let's dive in. Let's talk about, why the pivot. You talked about all the pivots that you have made in your life. You sound a lot like myself. But why then go from intermittent fasting to gut health and women's health, vagal tone? Can you give us a little background on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been interested in the gut microbiome. And certainly when I was training, over 25 years ago, there was very little to nothing taught or even understood. So it's really been a burgeoning field over the last 5 to 10 years. And in interviewing thousands and thousands of people, I've just come to realize that there are unique things that are changing in the gut microbiome for women as they are navigating perimenopause and menopause that impact our susceptibility to opportunistic infections, bone health, just overall metabolic health. And so helping women understand what's going on to substantiate why we have to change the way we eat. And I think that for many people, whether they choose to intermittent fast or not, all of us should abide by 12 hours of digestive rest. That's really what I call it. And I'll even say, even my teenagers who are very lean, very athletic, very active, they can go 12 hours without eating and they're still like growing and maturing. Certainly adults can get away with 12 hours of not eating. And so I've just come to find that it all starts in the gut. And the more that we can understand about the impact of chronic stress and changes in sex hormones and opportunistic infections and just so many things that are ongoing, the more proactive we can be about our health. And instead of feeling reactive, like that is the one thing, Heather, I don't know if you see this with your clients, but for me, I feel like many women feel like they are literally dodging bullets. It's a terrible, given the recent current events. Yeah, whack-a-mole, feeling like you're reactive instead of being proactive.
Yep.
But yet, if we can bring information to women north of 35 at an earlier stage and help educate clinicians and coaches, then it's going to make it so much easier for us to, I don't even want to use the word accept what's happening, but understand our physiology and understand what is changing on such a dynamic level.
We've been at war now with our gut unknowingly, between the chlorine in the water, the birth control, all the different things that are literally decimating the good guys in our gut that help us, make, essential vitamins and helps break down our food. And it's just fascinating to me how long we've been around and we're just now figuring out this huge piece to the puzzle. Like it still kind of blows my brain. I'm like, wait, why? What?
Well, it's our modern day lifestyles that are eroding our health and certainly eroding the quality of our gut microbiome. I just think about the statistics around the standard American diet and ultra processed foods and how 70% of Americans, not just once in a while eating a protein bar, eating ultra processed foods for every meal of the day, 7 days a week. And it's like one example, especially for women as they're navigating middle age, like so many of us become weight loss resistant. And I was explaining to someone the other day, like we know based on research that if you consume ultra processed foods, you are on average consuming an additional 500 calories a day. That's average. That means there are people consuming 1,000 or more extra calories a day. And let's be clear, it is not just about calories,
Right.
but it's helping people understand that our bodies don't know what to do with all this ultra processed food. It's highly inflammatory. Our bodies don't know how to recognize it. It is very different than sitting down and having a piece of steak and some broccoli and some grass-fed butter. It is so different than the ultra processed crap that most people, that is what they get hooked on. And that's what they, they drive themselves to look for it. They want to have, I'm just going to pick on Chick-fil-A, but like Chick-fil-A 7 days a week, or actually 6 days a week because they're not open on Sundays. But, all that ultra processed food that lights up our dopaminergic receptors in our brains and drive us to consume more and more of it because we are never satiated. We are chronically overfed and undermuscled. The muscle piece is also super important, but helping people understand that gut microbiome, we need to do all the things to nurture it. It's almost like if you have a beautiful garden and you have to fertilize it, you have to give it the right types of nutrients to ensure that you grow beautiful fruits and vegetables or other types of plants, whether it's herbs and spices, but helping people understand there is a way to optimize our gut microbiome, and there's certainly ways to decimate it.
Oh, absolutely. People don't realize we almost become like puppets of our microbiome. And when we feed it the bad crap and they are starting to crave the sugar and more of the bad crap. And they're the ones sending those signals up there of your cravings. And it's sad to realize people think that it's a willpower thing. And so a lot of times it's not. And they'll beat themselves up and they feel a lot of shame. When these things are chemically engineered to be addictive, there's certain toxins that they're calling obesogens, right? So if you're having a hard time losing weight, it's so much more than calories in, calories out mantra BS. So just, don't beat yourself up, get help. There's help out there. There's a lot more information going. So yeah, I would love to dive into some, maybe like 3 pearls of, digestive health, if you could today.
Yeah. I mean, I think, first and foremost, understanding that digestion starts in our brains. For a lot of people, if I ask adults or children, they'll say my mouth, my esophagus, my stomach. And I was like, good, close, but not the right answer. So understanding that we have the autonomic nervous system, and in the autonomic nervous system, we have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. And sympathetic is I'm being chased by a rabid animal. It's that drive to get up and get moving. Parasympathetic is rest and repose. It's relaxing. It's digestion. It's detoxification. And helping people understand, like, if you do nothing else before you eat, take 3 to 4 deep breaths and really stimulating that vagus nerve, which is called the wanderer. It's the longest cranial nerve in the body, and it connects the brain to the enteric nervous system, which is our gut. So really understanding, number 1, make sure you're in a parasympathetic state when you're eating. Don't be eating off your kids' plates while you're in the car, yelling at a spouse, yelling at your kids, eating on the go, which so many of us are guilty of. And I certainly have been on occasion. Sometimes you'll see me eating beef jerky and macadamia nuts in my car, because sometimes that's like what I'm eating on the go. But that should not be the optimal way to eat. I would say number 2 is really focusing in on protein. Having a protein-centric diet is going to be very important. Number 1, protein is very important for muscle protein synthesis, which allows us to build and maintain muscle as we get older. And we need more protein with age, not less. So what my teenagers can get away with, they probably can have 10 grams of protein, and that will stimulate muscle protein synthesis. As we get older, we genuinely need more protein. The irony is, this is also the time when people will start telling me I'm not as hungry. I don't feel like I want more than 1 meal a day. So understand that protein is helpful for blood sugar stabilization, satiety signaling, so telling us we're full. I would say the other piece about macros relevant to the gut microbiome is helping people understand brightly pigmented fruits and vegetables. And most people need more vegetables than fruits. We are a culture that loves sweetness. So when I look at diet recalls, almost always it's like 5 to 1, 5 pieces of fruit to 1 vegetable. So I encourage people 3 vegetables, non-starchy ones to 1 piece of fruit. We want brightly pigmented vegetables in our diet. So really thinking about 30 plant varieties, and people hear that number and it sounds incredibly daunting, but you could literally pull together 10 things in a salad. Could be cabbage, could be carrot, could be maybe you're having bell pepper, or maybe you're adding in some pumpkin seeds or some flax seeds, or having some variety, or adding in herbs, helping people understand that we really want those polyphenol rich. So polyphenols are signaling molecules in the body. Very, very important for multiple things that go on. So I'm not anti-carb, but I want to at least address carbohydrates because they've been so bastardized. We want the bulk of our carbohydrates from non-starchy vegetables. I think having low glycemic berries or a piece of citrus fruit is completely fine, but you don't want to go hog wild. Right now it is summer, and so we have lots and lots of fruit varieties. I love stone fruits, and I'm a fan of apricots, and maybe I'll have an apricot after a meal, and there's lots of good fiber in that, and that's certainly different. But, the rice, the potatoes, understanding that, those starchy vegetables we really want to limit. And it doesn't necessarily be that we don't eat them at all. We may have half a cup. It really depends on your insulin sensitivity, depends on your metabolic health goals, depends on whether or not you are physically active, and hopefully everyone is. And I would say, the last thing when I'm thinking about gut microbiome health, first and foremost is that parasympathetic vagal tone. Number 2 is making sure you're putting your macros together. And number 3, it sounds kind of trite, but it's a huge issue, making sure you're having daily bowel movement. Like, talking about poop
Wait,
is
wait,
not
wait.
sexy.
Say that again for the
Yeah.
people in the back. Like,
Yeah. We
so
should be
many people are
having,
like, yeah, I poop every 4 or 5
yeah.
days.
Can't even imagine.
Oh
Can't
my
even
gosh.
imagine. And I think that I remind people that our poop, just like our menstrual cycles, when we're still having a menstrual cycle, is an indication of our overall health. And you should be able to go every day easily. Not I sit on the toilet for 30 minutes, I read the paper from cover to cover. Like really being able to sit on the toilet and go within 5 to 10 minutes and be done and move on with your day. And what I think happens is that it's probably something that initially starts with, you wake up in the morning, you're focused on everyone other than yourself. It's hard to put that time aside. Some people really do they need peace and quiet, and they need to get out of their heads and just take care of business. But far too many women, when I talk to them about how often they go to the bathroom, they think it's normal to poop twice a week. They think it's normal to strain. They think it's normal to have rabbit poop turds. And I remind them there's the Bristol stool chart, and really all of us, and you can Google this online. This is not like medical lore. This is actually looking at what our stool content should look like. We should be, the gold standard is like a 3-4. Like it really should be effortless. You shouldn't have loose stools. You should not be constipated, because it
Hyper
speaks.
wiping. You shouldn't have to
Yes.
hyper wipe. That's
Hyper
another
wipe.
one.
Yes. Well, and my friends who love the days, they would say no one should have to wipe. But I think for most Americans are probably, they have toilet paper to some degree. Hopefully they're wiping at least once or twice. With that being said, I think that understanding that stooling and detoxification are very, very important, and understanding that a daily bowel movement is not just getting rid of waste. It is helping us package up and process excess estrogen. What starts to happen for many women in perimenopause is they start having this relative imbalance of progesterone to estrogen. Estrogen dominance, which is not a recognized term by our traditional allopathic trained providers. But this is when women will have weight loss resistance, breast tenderness. They may have crime scene periods. That's what I used to call them. Like I would pray that I would not get my period when I was rounding in the hospital, because I could fill a tampon and a pad in an hour, and that was a problem. And so helping women understand that estrogen needs to be metabolized, broken down, and excreted in the body. And there's something called the estrobolome, which is an awkward, weird part of the gut microbiome that's really talking and speaking to this processing and packaging up of excess estrogen. And so it's not just the estrogen that our bodies makes, it's the estrogen we're exposed to in obesogens, endocrine mimicking chemicals. And for most of us, we assume whatever we find in the grocery store or the pharmacy or online is going to be supportive of our hormones. And I'm here to tell you that you have to be a detective, because there's no government agency that is looking out for you. You have to look out for yourself. There's
Even in Whole Foods, like the hot bar in Whole Foods, if you look at the ingredients, the seed oils, it just blows my brain. How many people go to Whole Foods thinking that they can eat whatever they want in there and that it's going to be healthy for them? And it's BS.
It totally is. So those are like the 3 kind of high level things, because I think most people, I'm not telling you to go out and buy a particular supplement. Oh, and the last thing that I would say that I think is very important, so I'll give you a number 4. We know based on research that probiotic rich foods are superior to probiotics as a supplement. Unless you've had stool studies that have shown you have a particular deficiency, I would much rather that you focus on fermented vegetables. That's number 1. That you consider other fermented foods if you tolerate dairy. So kefir or a high quality organic yogurt is great. Low sugar kombucha, miso is another option. That is superior. And there's even a plum paste that I just learned about over the summer. Those things are superior than having probiotics. And it's not to suggest there's not a place, but this is where I would say food-based sources first. Like as I'm writing this book, that is where I am coming from. Instead of plugging a probiotic and saying everyone needs X, I would say, like, let's do some testing first, see if you are deficient in a keystone bacteria like Akkermansia. But the food-based fermented foods are something we should be eating every single day. Find one that you like. Please don't say high sugar kombucha, because that's not the answer. A bottle of kombucha really should be 3 or 4 servings. That's how I think about it. And understanding, like, if you have a tub of, like, I love Hex Ferments. I have no affiliation with them. It's in a glass jar. They have amazing flavor profiles. They're like a North Carolina based company. You can usually find them in Whole Foods. I'm like 2 tablespoons. We're not talking about half a jar. We're not talking about breaking the bank. I am not going to make my own fermented vegetables. I've just decided that's like not in my wheelhouse. I don't want a chemistry experiment in my refrigerator. Having said that, there are lots of brands that are out there. Find one that you like. Some are made with beets. Some are made with, they taste like a dill pickle. There's other ones that have like Indian spices, like a
Bubby's is
madras seasoning.
awesome for people
Yeah.
getting started. I sadly am the canary in the coal mine that have massive histamine issues, and
And
I
if you have a
cannot
histamine
touch
issue,
ferments. The
well,
reason I'm in excruciating pain now is because I feel better, and then I let one or two slip in, and then because I'm a Western A Price trained person, and they're all about the ferments, and it totally makes sense. So the next thing I know, I'm doing kombucha, I'm doing sauerkraut, I'm doing this, and then now I'm like, oh my God, I hurt so bad.
or do you have high? So what I typically see is in the setting of high estrogen, mast cell degranulation, high histamine, they oftentimes go together. And so, making sure that your estrogen is optimized, because that's usually where I will see that will become problematic. The other thing is that doesn't mean it's a forever. Histamine reactions can be like a bear to deal with because you feel like you can't eat anything that's considered to be relatively healthy. And I include even sometimes some oxalate rich foods, things that we don't even think about, like collagen peptides, which are intrinsically not an unhealthy thing to do, great for hair, skin, and nails. But for a lot of people, if they are oxalate or histamine sensitive, it's really speaking to gut health and really speaking to needing to nurture that gut microbiome. I have been there during my first book launch. I didn't understand. One day I literally sat down to do a podcast interview for the book, and I broke out in head to toe hives, and the guest sponsor was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I feel really funny." And I was head to toe hives. So in that setting, like high estrogen, high histamine, mast cell degranulation, things are better now. But for anyone listening, if you kind of fall into that group that Heather's kind of alluding to, it is not your destiny for the rest of your life. It probably means you really need to be working with someone that can help heal and seal the gut, because the gut in and of itself, like the physiology of it, the gut microbiome is really fascinating. Helping people understand it's not a forever thing. It may be temporarily. You can't handle those fermented foods.
And
I
that
do
is
find
true. I had a huge area of stress the last 6 months that kind of set everything in motion.
Yep.
And so I've been trying to calm all that stuff down. But yes.
Easier said than done. And we are less stress resilient as we are navigating perimenopause and menopause. Like that is one thing. It's not that you are incapable. It's that your stress bucket gets filled more readily, whether it's a divorce, a death in the family, a job loss. You have a terrible argument with a loved one and they're not speaking to you. I speak from personal experience. I have a loved one right now who's not speaking to me because they're a narcissist and they're upset about something that was beyond my control. Having said that, I think for all of us, it's just understanding like we become a little less stress resilient. We have to be kinder to ourselves. And sometimes that involves doing things that are in our best interest and perhaps not someone else's.
Yeah, absolutely. When is this? So you said you're writing another book, The Midlife Pause. When is that expected to come out?
Early 2026. So if any of your listeners are familiar with the way the publishing industry works, your manuscript is usually due a year or 9 months before publication. So beginning of the year is the optimal time to publish a book. And so the one thing I asked of my editor was more time. That book was written during the pandemic and I had a very tight timeline. And so I said, this time I need it to be a solid 6 months. So manuscript is due in February and then it'll be published the following year. And we're still kind of working out the date. I don't know how much you know about book publication, but like there's certain weeks that are better to publish in than others. I mean, there's all this data. I'm very quantitative focused, and the group that I hired to kind of help with PR and stuff, we have been like looking at like when are the optimal weeks to publish. So
that's incredible. I can't wait for that to come out and dive deep into that. So as we're getting ready to wrap up, this is the shameless plug time of the show. Where can people find you? How do people, find your books? What are you putting out right now?
Yeah, so I would say start with my website. So it's www.cynthiathurlow.com. I have an amazing podcast called Everyday Wellness. It is my favorite thing I do in my business. I get to interview the best and the brightest in the health and wellness space. We are now very active on YouTube and actively growing. We're starting to get our published podcasts calendar synced up with publication. So you'll be able to see the live interviews there as well as some other original content. I'm pretty active on Instagram. On Twitter, I can be a little snarky. I would say that on Facebook, I have to forewarn, I'm from New Jersey. So every once in a while that kind of comes out. We do a free Facebook group called the Midlife Pause that's on Facebook. And my team and I are in there answering questions a couple days a week. So that's a great resource, really nice group of women. I'm anti-drama and I will kick people out in a heartbeat if they're trying to create or incite nonsense or disunity. I'm like, listen, it is hard enough for women to navigate the second stage of their lives. They do not need drama, and I don't like it. So that's a wonderful place to connect with us as well.
That's incredible. Can I get an amen?
Yeah.
No drama.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And while you guys are at it, make sure to go to wearenikki.com/podcast, enter in BioBeats for 10% off. But because we love our customers so much, we show appreciation by giving away a free Nikki and a free wellness suite of frequencies. I think it's a $5.97 value on every episode. So make sure to check out the show notes on how to enter for that. Good luck to you. And make sure to have a healthy day. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, my name's Stephen Davis, founder and developer of Nikki, a personal frequency delivery system. This wearable is designed to deliver frequencies into the body to speed recovery from Lyme disease. Our Lyme suite of frequencies are the newest version of our Lyme recovery program. Thousands of Lyme sufferers, which include my family, use the Lyme daily to overcome Lyme disease. Today, I'm proud to announce a new suite of Lyme frequency sets that are going to be focused on co-infections. Nikki is loaded with Lyme daily, which deals with the Lyme disease, plus 9 additional frequency sets designed to address your worst co-infection symptoms. Those frequency sets include bacteria and virus, detox, emotional balance, gut health, histamine, mold and fungal, Lyme sleep, pain and stress. And we know that those are going to be well received from people with Lyme disease. We are passionate about speeding your recovery from Lyme disease. It's a terrible disease that no one should have to live with. Once you have used your Lyme daily, then choose from the 9 frequency sets designed to offer relief from your most persistent symptoms. The key is to stick with it. Don't frequency hop until you've used the Lyme daily. Best practice is use the other frequency sets for a minimum of 2 hours before switching to another. This is giving the frequency sets time to bring your body into balance. Good balance means good health.
There's a new word for wellness, Nikki. Nikki, the bioenergetic wearable designed to help you feel better and perform better. Other wearables just track how you're doing. Nikki is about helping you do better. Touch the Nikki screen to choose the frequency you want for what you want to do and how you want to feel. Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better. Do better. wearenikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of FreeMedica. FreeMedica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.